So we have come to the last, but certainly not least. Right here, I have Don Mashele from SEFA, and I have Luyanda Jafta, who does not know this, but he actually runs an entity called the People's Fund that I truly admire. He's going to tell us more about what that is, how did it come about, why is it important. So perhaps maybe let's start with the entrepreneur, Don. Is that okay? You can go ahead.
Before you finished your sentence, I thought you said he doesn't know this, but he runs the People's Fund. Hi everyone. My name is Luyanda Jafta. I'm co-founder of a company called the People's Fund. And primarily what we do is we went to everyday people like yourself and we said, let's crowdfund some capital. And that capital will be used to finance small emerging black businesses who've got contracts with corporates and government. Started it about 3 years ago. I gave the company a 3,000 Rand business loan. We've been blessed. Just this month we funded 30 million in POs for just this month alone. And we've enabled $250 million in turnover for small businesses in that 3 years. So we've been lucky. Yes, that's me.
100% black owned. Okay, can you believe it? We need to clap hands for that. Hey? That is black excellence.
80%? I don't know if you know.
That is still majority shareholder. So we're going to go to you, Don. Please tell us, a bit about the work that you do within SEFA and maybe some of the funding programs. This is the finance. People want to know about the money right now. So what are some of the funding programs that you have at SEFA that, of course, the SMEs that are joining us here today can tap into?
Yes. Thank you so much and good afternoon, everyone. It's for the first time after a very long time for me to see people sitting in one room like this. I normally work from home, and for Andy Lay, it was a struggle for him to say, I must come and sit here. So I'm with SEFA, Small Enterprise Finance Agency. In fact, I would have recommended the same thing, that let Luyanda start first, because we're having a nice discussion with Luyanda out there. And in terms of what we do as SEFA, we frustrate people, and when we frustrate them, they go to Luyanda for funding. No, on a serious note, we are an implementing agency of the Department of Small Business Development. So as you know, that there is a dedicated ministry to support small businesses. Under that, ourselves, SEFA, we provide funding, access to funding. We've got a sister organization that deals with business development support, and that is SEDA. SEDA, its mandate is to provide business development support, training, etc., etc. In a nutshell, what we do a number of things, but I'll limit it to the things that we do under direct lending, because I'm assuming we're sitting with entrepreneurs here who want to access SEFA directly. So under direct lending, we provide funding to finance a variety of things, up to a maximum of 15 million Rand. Our maximum used to be 5 million, and it was changed recently to 15 million because we realized that some of the opportunities that are out there, you can't do much with 5 million Rand. So our limit is 15 million Rand. We are a subsidiary of the IDC. I'm told that the IDC was supposed to be part of the panel, but when we were here, they're here. Because we are a subsidiary of the IDC. Remember, IDC will fund big industrial projects, so that's where they play. And then we finance the SMEs. All the information is available there. We've got a website, obviously, that you can get the information. But what I would like also to say, if you want to access SEFA funding, we've got an online application portal, which becomes very crucial at this point in time, where a lot of things are done online. So in terms of you, if you want to know, can SEFA fund this, can SEFA fund that, we've got an online application portal where you can just go in there, you log in. It's a quiz that you have to respond to. It will take about 10 to 15 minutes. So once you have answered all the questions in terms of that, you can do it as I'm speaking to you now, but please concentrate, don't do it now, maybe tea break time. So when you do that, the portal will then say you are either eligible to apply for SEFA funding because you have responded positively for all the questions we have asked. For instance, one of the things that we do, like I said before, We don't fund above 15 million rand. We finance businesses that operate in the country, etc., etc. Now, if you are not eligible for whatever reason to apply for SEFA funding, the portal is built on what is called the FinFind portal. So FinFind has got a number of lenders. We have close to 200 plus lenders in the country, including the People's Fund. So if the People's Fund is listed on the portal, it will then say, you, for whatever reason, are not eligible to apply for SEFA funding. However, here are the potential lenders that you can. So I encourage you to do that because you don't live there frustrated. If SEFA cannot assist for whatever reason, which is unlikely in most cases, then we'll refer you to other funders. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So the other day, I think this is probably like a week or two ago, I was on YouTube, right? As I was minding my own business. So, you know, this machine learning thing, right? So it kind of, you know, checks out the kind of content that you like. And so, again, I would imagine that's how it works even with the adverts. There pops up an advert by the people, the People's Fund. At first, I mean, I saw the logo like right there at the bottom, and then I'm looking at these people, I'm like, these are local people. This is like, you know, I was watching some international business, and then I see these people, I'm like, okay, the accent and the faces are South African, and then I saw, you know, that it's your company, that you guys literally just, started 3 years ago? But of course it wasn't 3 years ago, you know, that you guys have started your journey. You had been involved at the hookup dinner?
Yeah, the hookup dinner is my partner.
Seleboho.
Yes. Seleboho is my partner. The hookup dinner has been around, I think, 7 years. You're going to slap me if I forget that number. But I think 7 years. 7. You see, the hookup dinner is important. But me personally, I've been in entrepreneurship for the past 10 years.
Sure.
Right? And the same problem kept
creeping up. Why are we not getting funded, right? But in that 10 years of learning, we quickly learned that there's not a shortage of capital in the market. There's a shortage of fundable businesses, right? And the fundamental thing that the People's Fund is changing in how it answers that question, whose job is it to make these businesses fundable, right? It's not the entrepreneurs, it's the finance institutions, right? And the People's Fund, primarily the reason we exist, and we're talking about this with Don outside, we feel like Black entrepreneurs in South Africa don't get spoken to, they get spoken at. So when you go to a bank and you say, I've got a purchase order, I've got XYZ, right? The first thing you get told is, can I see your financials, right? Your first purchase order. One, funny. 2, we're gonna need security. Talk about where am I gonna get the security from? It doesn't exist. I don't know if you guys, there's a good book I like, it's called Bankers to the Poor. It's a nice allegory to South Africa, that most financial institutions have no idea what they're talking about, right? They've got a top-down approach. We're talking about this even from a SEFA's perspective. Don, I hope I don't get you in trouble with the people who write the mandates. And it's like, Don is a very smart person, and we're talking, and he's got great ideas, but he has the limitations of working in an organization that does top-down policy, right? The problem is you need to go to the people and understand what they want and then design solutions for that. And that's the belief of the People's Fund, right? We're in a brand essay endeavor, right? That's how you build the brand. And that's the mantra. We're a conduit for a people-led economy. Because our belief is that people can solve their own problems. We're here to that's like our slogan, right? So that's what we're here for.
You are right next to me here, so you know, I hope I'm safe. But I really need to ask this question. A lot of entrepreneurs have been, you know, sort of unhappy, you know, with being unable to, I suppose, tap into this COVID-19 fund that was made available, in fact, across, you know, various government agencies. I just want you to maybe touch a bit about that, the COVID-19 fund. Is it still open? Other entrepreneurs still say, look, we're still being affected. We still would like assistance, you know, to get our business, you know, back, you know, running again. Is that still available? If it is not, What are the other alternative, solutions that you could probably communicate in the room that entrepreneurs can look into?
Yeah, no, thanks. Let me earn my salary for a change. I thought Luyanda was going to take the whole time. But before I respond to your questions, I'd like to pick up on some of the things that Luyanda was talking about. Because remember, there is this, I don't know if it's a perception or what, that says you've got government and you've got private sector. That mentality is, if you watch what is happening around now, it's actually, the gap is narrowing. It's actually narrowing. When you look at our recovery plan, you look what is happening around infrastructure, you look at what, we just had an investment conference lately. I mean, was it last week? Yeah, so that gap is actually narrowing. We were talking here with Luyanda before we came in here to then say, what they are doing, we can partner as a SEFA, but at a different level, to actually expand from what they are doing. We're just having a discussion now, and we're going to take this discussion further, because remember, and I like it when you're saying crowdfunding, I must talk further, I must society, so we're just talking last week as a department portfolio to then say, how can we partner? We're using stock fairs at the time, but we can do the same thing with crowdfunding platforms. So I'm saying, so that is coming. We just watch the space in terms of how can government can't go out there and have a crowdfunding platform. You can't, but you need entrepreneurs like this, and then once that has taken off, then you then say, how do we come together and expand that? The other issue is on the top down, to then say, there is this thing that says nothing about us without us. It becomes a slogan of some sort. And again, we had a discussion with Leander, and I'm trying to say, the reason that, amongst others, government or any other authority will do that, what we don't find, which is a challenge, is the voice of small businesses in this country. And I'm generalizing to say the voice of small, you can even go further and say the voice of small black business. Because you need that to be very solid. And it's not government's responsibility to put it together. It is entrepreneurs' responsibility in a way to then say, we're going to unite as entrepreneurs and have a voice that can challenge government. Again, we're using a simple example, Yama Union. I don't want to quote entities because so in a union environment, you've got them as substitutes. And then I'm a substitute in a company, even if I 2 or 3, if that company employs 2,000 people, those 3 people are a voice of the 2,000 that we have. But we don't have those structures there in South Africa. We have, on paper, the chambers. And the frustrating part about the chambers, it's not from where we're sitting, it's very difficult to partner with the chamber and achieve the things that we want to achieve. Because there's challenges there, in the respective chambers.
I can say it because I'm not employed. So the biggest problem, actually, why I was saying that's the mindset that you touched on, that we agree on. The biggest problem with the chambers is the person running the chamber is a business owner themselves. So usually when something has to happen for the chamber, they first have to eat, right? So there's a conflict of interest for working for the collective. So like you're saying, right? The voice you need for black business, it's very hard to do. But the thinking is we can collectively do a lot more than try to do things as individuals, right? And that's why we went the Stokvel route. We wanted to just demonstrate how ridiculous an idea, right, could enable a whole group of people to collectively own a bank, right? A simple idea like a Klipacho, because that's where we started with $100, right? To enable a large number of people. We've enabled 700 businesses and counting, right? As a small company. Actually, our offices are upstairs here, don't judge. Right? As a small company, average age of the employees is 26. Like, to what Mr. Mashale is saying is that to be the solution you want to see in the world. So the average age of a company, I think it's about,
could be wrong, 26, 24, could be around there. They're young, I don't know how old they are. And those idiots that are my directors decided to make me CEO and represent the band in this way. But we're solving for youth unemployment. We're solving for small business access to finance. And the thinking is we can do it ourselves. Because if we fund you, right, and you're on our platform, one of the things we force you to do is join the stokvel, right? You don't have to pay up front, but after you get paid, you put 1,600 joining fee into that, and your money funds the next entrepreneur, right? So that cycle is us solving our problems ourselves, right? And that's what we need, right, as a collective. And no heroes, right? Most of you don't know me in this room. I avoid the media like a plague. It's distracting, deeply distracting, right? Because then you're now a social media entrepreneur, not making bank. You don't have a business, but you're a brand. Sorry, brand SA. And man, the work, I think the slogan on my profile is men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And the thing we want to focus on is the numbers. So we fix the numbers. There's nothing we're discussing here. You know, brand SA becomes we're the custodians for a brand owned by people who are different to us, you know. And yeah, sorry.
No, thanks. Now to the question around the COVID thing. So when the COVID thing came, the pandemic, I can't remember when it was. Obviously, we are at that time at a lockdown level 5. We had a budget from the department to then say we need to assist businesses, because remember that was a critical time. So we had a scheme called the SME debt relief scheme. And the debt relief was to assist businesses that were going to struggle under level 5, level 4, and so on, to give them relief funding. So we had about 300,000 for that program. But what we also knew was that the issue of COVID-19 brought opportunities to certain businesses. You know, some businesses started, some expanded, so we wanted to support those businesses as well. So with the 500,000 million that we had the 2 schemes to run under the 2 programs. We opened a window for applications, as you anticipate. We were oversubscribed on the debt relief scheme because businesses were struggling. And then we did get application under the other scheme called the business growth, because those were for businesses that saw opportunity and, you know, wanted to apply for growth capital. Now, and there we're talking about big amounts in terms of the threshold for the growth facility. Now a decision was taken to then say, the guys that are experiencing growth, surely they can find assistance elsewhere. You can go to the bank, you can go to the People's Fund, whatever the case is. But now let's take the budget that we had and lump it, combine it with the 300 million for the debt relief scheme. That in itself was not even enough, but we managed to support businesses under that scheme. The money ran out, to be honest. We ran out of money. We then encouraged entrepreneurs to apply for UIF grant, because that one was actually had a bigger budget. So ours was not a big budget. I think we assisted about 1,000 plus SMEs. The names of SMEs that were assisted are still there on the DSPD website. So we don't have, for now, any COVID relief scheme that we are managing. However, since now the economy is opening up, you know, there are certain opportunities that are coming out there. During the so-called level 5 and 4 at that time, we then designed programs to target businesses that are operating in townships and villages. To then say the issue of COVID-19 gave us an opportunity as a country to reset the economy and address the needs of businesses in townships and villages. You know, someone who's got an office land, I'm not referring to you, Santi, Luyanda, they're not struggling. So now the issue is to then say, okay, you've got COVID, businesses are struggling in townships and villages, what do you do? So we developed programs, we still have those, and the programs that we have, I was telling Rihanna also, to then say the issue of township economy, we can't cover all businesses with one blanket and say, in terms of township economy, this is what we're going to do. So we develop programs for each and every sector that you'll find in a township. For instance, we've got a program for spaza shops, dedicated program that provides funding and non-financial support. But how that program is designed around the needs of someone who's running a spaza shop will need. We've got another one for automotives, the workshops, guys that are doing hair salons, etc. We've got about 8 programs that are out there. You can apply if maybe you are in that business or you know a neighbor, an uncle, an aunt, and mom in that business. You can apply for those. What we also have now, because one of the sectors that is going to drive our growth is the manufacturing sector. So we've got a scheme. It's a new scheme. It's a blended finance scheme under manufacturing, where you can apply to, the maximum there is 15 million rand. The beauty about the scheme is that it's a blended finance. It's a loan and a grant in one package. So we can package 50% loan, 50% grant, whereby if you're in manufacturing, you've been operating for 2 years, you want to expand, you can apply for that scheme. Say, argument's sake, you're going to apply for 5 million. We put that application in a matrix, and then we say, this application will get a 2.5 million grant, you get 2.5 million loan, so that is the combination, is blended finance. So this, you can argue, is still a COVID relief scheme, because no one can give you a grant for 2.5 million if you want to expand a business in manufacturing for 5 million rand. So those are the things. The moral of the story, folks, is that the COVID relief schemes, the one that we had in level 5 and 4 are gone. We don't even need them now, actually, because now, for the fact that the economy is opening up, we need businesses that can say, okay, now we're seeing an opportunity, we want to grow. Those are the businesses we're supporting under the scheme that I mentioned in townships and the manufacturing scheme that I've just mentioned. The other one that we're struggling to get out there, we've got a scheme. SEFA has been with this scheme for some time now, but we're struggling to get it off the ground. It's called the Amavula Funding Scheme. Amavula Funding Scheme targets entrepreneurs with disabilities, where we don't ask a lot of questions. It's simple interest rate, 7%. No questions asked really in terms of other things, but you must have at least a potentially viable business. So if you know someone, again, a neighbor there, an uncle, a relative, whatever the case is, who is running a business and they're living with a disability, they can approach us and we can assist them in terms of the scheme that we do have. Thanks.
All right, fantastic. As Mandisa had mentioned earlier, I am moderating this panel in partnership with everyone in this room. Again, to reiterate, there's a lot of smart entrepreneurs here, very ambitious entrepreneurs here, and of course potential clients for the 2 entities represented here in front. So I will ask Mandisa to start taking down names, and I just want to ask Uluyanda right up here in front, just one more question. Don spoke about interest rates, and it actually popped up in my head. So Nyafiga, the People's Fund, what does it mean in terms of the rates that you charge me as a business or as an entrepreneur?
Sure. So when you come and apply, you apply on the people.co.za, you get asked 20 questions, and then the system immediately tells you whether we can fund you or not and how much we're going to charge you as a fee. How we treat it is actually, we treat it as a facilitation fee, right? So it's like a profit share between you and I. And the profit we take, so we say your project must have a margin of 20% and above, etc., etc. Then we'll charge you 6% of the value of the PO. So let me make an exact example. You've got a PO for 200,000, your costs are 100,000. You come to us for funding, we provide the 100,000, then we charge you 12,000 rand, right? For however long the project takes. That's simply how the People's Fund works. We're saying the reason banks don't play in this space is because of them trying to charge interest, right? But you as the entrepreneur need to get most of the profit, but at the same time, you need to fund the risk we're taking on you, unsecured and all of those things. And that's how we've structured it. And then whatever we make as a fee, we split it 50-50 with the crowd that's invested in the actual project. So yeah, usually 6% of the PO value. We do factor for risk sometimes, but generally
6% of PO.
I was actually going to get to that because when you were speaking, I was like, okay, so how do you? Because in your first comment, you had mentioned that you obviously do not look at collateral, the stuff that traditional banks would obviously look at, right, or financial institutions would look at. But then, how do you then, as the People's Fund, mitigate the risk? And when do you know that this person, Icona, we are not going there? I do know, however, that you do have a list of preferred entities that that have given, of course, the entrepreneur the job or the PO, and there's people you do not touch. Who are those people?
You want the ones we don't touch?
Of course, it's government is there, but
my
who?
directors are gonna have me. I have a board meeting on Monday. They're gonna be like, yeah, we thought you're smart. Okay.
3 departments we don't touch at all: Ekurhuleni, Northwest, Free State. We don't touch those municipalities and those provinces. There's
I think those people are from Ekurhuleni.
Yeah.
So that's the Ekurhuleni corner.
That's the Ekurhuleni corner. What's sad is my hometown is Ekurhuleni. So it sucks. But why we don't touch those departments, we found, man, I'm going to speak frankly. I think the country's tired of people not speaking frankly. We found a general rot in thinking. So the People's Fund, let me give context, right? Let me give context. So if you look at government spending on business per year, right? It ranges between 900 billion and 1 trillion. If you took just government spending, right, on businesses, right, and you made it a GDP of a country, right, it would be the 7th biggest economy in the continent, right? South African government spending on its own, 90% of that is going to non-transformed businesses, right? And we often hear this conversation that says tendering is corrupt. And we have a face and a pigment for that corruption. But if transformed businesses are only getting 10%, who is corrupt, right? So we have a perception problem. There's not enough people tendering because they don't want to be perceived as tenderpreneurs, right? But that's like almost 1 trillion a year that you're not participating. That's designed for you to participate in. Like that's the key, that's the methodology government is using from a top-down policy perspective to enable Black non-participant entrepreneurs to get into the economy, right? To the main economy. That's the first thing. Secondly, there is something that does starve Black entrepreneurs in that process. One, corruption and bribery and all of those other things, right? That actually does mess us over tremendously. So one of the things we have a no tolerance policy on is all of that, right? We've actually sent people to the BEE Commission for fronting. Those people don't like us. We open, if somebody doesn't pay us back and it's an act of fraud, we open the cases, we blacklist them fully. So if you are not gonna play ball because you're starving the next entrepreneur who could have gotten this funding, we're gonna do the full, we're gonna treat you. I'm gonna make a joke now. I hope it's not offensive to anyone in the room. Our attorney who does our collections, awesome guy. He's my age, but he's got a deep Afrikaans voice, right? Like a deep Afrikaans voice. When he calls, I hope this joke doesn't offend anyone. When he calls anyone, right? The first thing you're thinking, oh shit, I'm getting arrested now. Like now I'm getting arrested, right? Show me. So his collections is pretty decent. But one of the things we want to do is make sure the thing works properly. And from that thinking, working properly, I remember you saying in the beginning that we're 100% Black owned, right? We're not, we're 80% Black owned, right? I think there's something dangerous about how we build brands, right? To be symbolic instead of effective, right? There's something to learn from everyone in the country. There's 400 years of learnings sitting on the other side of the fence, right? Our 20% shareholder is actually not even South African, but don't tell anyone I said that. But they run a board, it's called Sada Group. They do board training and board placement for privately held companies. They've helped us a lot with our governance, right? And actually opening networks of capital, right? And I think there's a lot we can learn from each other. It's the same way Don was talking about there's not a divide between corporate and government, right? The conversation we're having is how can SEFA structure their product so that we can access the capital and deploy it, because we fund in 2 to 5 days, right? And I think we need to move a little bit more to that thinking of collaboration, like you were saying, because there's a lot we can do together instead of trying to symbolically be great on our own, So,
the previous panel, where one of our panelists was essentially, saying that, we have this thing, of wanting to be 100% owned and 100%, of course, 100% of nothing is not better than, 10% of something. So we need to be looking more into how do we create a village, so to say, and work together with everybody else is bringing value to the table. So I'm just going to go to the first question. Do introduce yourself if you haven't already. Mandisa, maybe if we can be deliberate in choosing people that have not gotten the opportunity to ask a question. Do introduce yourself. It's an opportunity to network. And then go ahead with the question, and so kindly keep it brief for us. Thank you.
My name is Urban Motlasedi from Argate Technologies, and I'm actually for solutions for both you gentlemen.
Okay.
I've had the pleasure of engaging one of your guys from THAD, Dr. Feelgood, with the pitch deck through the Tebe Market Linkage Summit. I'll start with SEFA. When your organization processes loans and then you're declined, wouldn't it be prudent to then give the SME feedback on where they fell short, instead of just getting a declined email to say you are not suitable? I would also like to engage you after this. I also belong to a CFI, and we're trying to maybe we can collaborate and make one big organization.
Fantastic. There you go, collaboration. Maybe the next, you can take the next question, and we'll allow Don to react to the comment that you have made. But first, maybe let's take the next question on the floor.
Good day. My name is Tabo Mawaha. I am from Proudly Sowetan, Socio-Economic Transformation Institute. We specialize in new venture creations. So as you're speaking, it resonates with us because a successful venture is something that you want in your books. The more of our entrepreneurs that become successful as a result of skills development, the more there is for you to take out of. So my question is, and to you and Brand SA, to local grassroots organizations such as ours that is CETA accredited and that is willing and able to provide the type of training that any entrepreneur would need in order to sustain and grow their businesses, what kind of a partnership would we be looking at to grow together? Thanks.
All right, so that question is for Brand SA, correct? Okay, so Brand SA, I'm not sure if anyone is in the room from Brand SA. Maybe if you can, Andile, Andile is right there, I think, at the back. So maybe the other question is directed to?
SEFA.
SEFA, all right. So I'll allow Don to react to both of the...
The People's Fund will cover.
I'm sorry?
Saying the People's Fund will cover.
Okay.
Yes, directed to SEFA. I heard you mentioned the scheme that's not doing well for the disabled. Okay, sorry. Lebogang, interior design and decor, company's Timeless Decor Services.
Nice to meet you.
So as part of our programs, we do social other programs with disabilities, namely Takalani in Soweto. So in terms of that, I just needed to know up to how much do you grant your funds to operating businesses which are run or managed by disabled people?
You go.
So can I go?
Yeah, please.
All right. Assumptions are wrong things to make. You think because Uluyanda Kulma could get all the questions. I was just here keeping quiet. I'm getting all the questions. It's all your fault, Luyanda. But in terms of the first question, we do respond and give reasons if we don't approve an application. That is the standard policy or process that we need to follow at SEFA. To then say, if we can assist you, we'll give you the reasons why we can't do that. You know, some of the businesses, they engage, they appeal, and then so we do that. You might find that, I don't want to say, you might find out maybe in your particular example, if that was the case, somebody said no without giving you reasons. That's not how we do it. So if you have got that kind of an experience, I will, colleagues, leave my email address after this. You can engage me and we can take it forward. So the issue around new venture creation, and I know you did say that it's for Brand SA, but we also work with CEDA. Remember, CEDA works with quite a number of sitters. So there could be a partnership there. CEDA, like I said before, they're in the pre-investment space, training and all of those things. So if you need some form of a partnership in the portfolio, CEDA will be that organization. And if you want, I will again leave my email address and we can assist you. I don't know if there's any other question, if I've missed anything here.
Maximum quantum.
Oh, maximum quantum, okay. It's 15 million. I said our maximum is 15 million. 1.5. Yeah, and the minimum is 50,000 rand. We've got 75,000 that we can do by way of business development support, maybe mentorship and all of that. But if you drop me an email, I will send you a brochure, the product, so you don't have to mind writing. Let me just give my email address because I still have the mic. Email address, colleagues, it's donm, DONM, @sefa.org.za. And the reason you drop an email is maybe there's things that you want to discuss here that maybe a bit specific to your business, or you want some form of a partnership. Let's engage. Thanks.
All right, fantastic. Do we have any more questions? Maybe we'll take 2 more questions. There's one right here in the front. I'll give you the mic. Maybe let's. Okay, please go ahead.
I just wanted to ask quickly. The turnaround.
Oh.
The turnaround time from SEFA in terms of accessing those funds once approved.
What's the standard turnaround time once application has been submitted?
The ones that are express or expedited in a sense, because I do not believe that they take a bit longer than expected.
Sure.
Maybe 2 parts to colleagues. Don't do this at home. You know, I'm just assuming that this mic is safe. So you guys, when you go and test, don't tell me anything. So don't ever do this at home. Yeah. So my sister, turnaround times. There's 2 types of transactions we'll do. You know, some of the guys will come up with contracts and say, I've got a contract. That's an easy transaction to do. You don't do a lot of due diligence, as it were. So those we're looking at about 20 working days, but it's from application to approval. You know, you must give us all the documents that we require for us to meet those standards. So that is if you have a contract. If you don't have a contract, where it's a business where our guys must still go out, do due diligence, check the market, check the assumptions in the business plan, and so on and so on, we're looking at about 30 working days. But that's from application again to approval. But I'm hearing a question to be saying, to access the funds, how much does it take from approval to disbursement? That we don't have a standard, because remember now, if you give us a transaction, we take certain securities. So depending on the type of security you take, the more complex the security, the collateral, you know, it's gonna take a little bit longer. We don't fund based on security, don't misunderstand me, but I'm saying if you happen to give us a security, maybe we're buying a machinery where we must register an interest in that particular machinery, that in itself takes a little bit longer. Where we're just taking simple suretyships, we can say from approval to disbursement, you can look at another 2 weeks.
Yeah, fantastic.
For the contractual, when you come with a contract, so you're saying it's 20 days for approval, and then another extended 2 weeks to actually access the funds in your account.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, is this completely online, or how does it?
No, we are not completely online. You can apply online and then submit, but most of the things you'll have to engage with it. Because remember now, from the application to a point where we do the disbursement, that is not automated yet.
All right, fantastic. Let's take the question at the back. Please move your mic closer to you.
Yeah, sorry about that. My question is directed at SEFA. My name is Bongi. I have a golf apparel on behalf of, so I'm a meeting manufacturer. I've had the line launched 2 years ago, but it hasn't been taken off. It's mainly online. Most of my clients are from the golfing circles and it's word to mouth. What I need to understand from SEFA, because I thought I heard you mention something about you must have been manufacturing for 5 years. What happens then to a business like mine, which has been in operation for 2 years? That's one first part of the question. My second part is I'm at a point where I've been given retail space, my first footprint at a golf course where I can actually exhibit and have a physical footprint at a pro shop for my golf apparel. And the long-term vision is to actually manufacture basketball clothes, soccer clothes. Golf is just an entry point because I happen to be exposed more with the sport of golf. So would you be, because it's seen more as a lifestyle business, it's very niche, it's very, it's a very small market, but would you have an appetite for such a business, especially because I'm also looking at setting up a manufacturing hub in a township. Looking at school development programs to introduce the sport of golf and to expose more children into the sport and not it to be seen as an empty sport. Would you have an appetite for such?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we will. I think the short answer is yes, we will. You just have to package it, give us some high-level executive summary how you want to do it. Just email it to me and say how we can partner, we will engage. I think that is we can do that. In terms of the manufacturing facility, I said 2 years. You must be in existence, been operating for 2 years, not 5 years.
All right, fantastic. This side, the Kuruleni, it's quiet. Are you guys here? Kuruleni is not saying anything. I'm very concerned. It's this side. Haibo. Because in fact, and the reason why also, I recognize some faces this side. But they're not asking the question. Maybe I must ask for them. So if I have a purchase order as an entrepreneur, and I just heard Uluyanda, speak about what you guys look at and all of that, and what you don't look at, right? What is it again that might potentially, or maybe from experience, you guys have been doing this for a while, right? What is it that outside of the listed entities, Ekurulane and all these other people that you look at that become a very big red flag for you? What are some of the disqualifying factors that have affected entrepreneurs and not receiving funding from your end?
So what we try to evaluate is behavior, right? That's very hard to describe this without getting very technical, right? But what we're trying to do is use data from how people interact with the world to determine if they will get our money back, right? So when you answer those 10 questions, we've got various integrations with various bureaus and various other things that we're doing a live check in that exact moment. So that's why we can fund in 2 to 5 days. We've built the technology to do various vets on you in the back end, right? So that by the time we're sending you the email, right, we know what we want to see, The number one thing we want to see is, how have you worked previously? We've got deep relationships with various clients and we understand which ones pay, which ones don't, which ones are problematic. COVID broke that because now everyone's problematic with payments, right? But because people call it department, no, lo muntu akekho test positive. Man. Makabuye emsebenzini angazosishonela la, So that's made it a little tough, but we generally know the clients that pay. And that's why we've been lucky enough to maintain a capital default rate of only 2.8% of total deployments unsecured, Brandon said, don't get angry at me, which is like 1/3 of what Capitec's unsecured lending is currently, right? Yeah, look at that face you just pulled. I touched the nerve, right? Didn't I? I'm joking. Capitec still invest in us.
but just as a testament of how effective the system at checking default rates, right, or checking for somebody is going to default or not. That's how we do it. I hope I've explained somewhat correctly without trying to get too technical.
I get it. I hope the room does. I mean, if anyone wants you to repeat any point, they will, of course, just ask the question or meet you afterwards, right? Sure. So there's a question that side. Please go ahead. Yeah.
It's not working, but can you hear me? Okay, thank you for that. We here coming from the northwest.
Unfortunately.
My name is Carlos. I've got a clothing brand called Cupid, right? The t-shirt which I'm wearing. And so I think for other entrepreneurs who are sort of in my space, we don't really deal with contracts or purchase orders. You start by selling t-shirts or shoes or golf equipment from your bush, and then the business grows over time. And what you normally struggle with is to get your supply chain right. So that is kind of the space where I find myself in. I've identified a factory which is fully operational, employs X amount of people, and I feel like for my brand to grow or for my business to grow, I need to acquire an already existing business, sort of backward integration or something like that for the educated ones. I'm not sure, I can't quite remember. Do you guys find such transactions, or it's not something you would look at?
Can I ask you a question? Can I challenge? Can I ask the mic stays with you a little bit? Can I challenge you on something? Why don't you contract?
There's nothing wrong with contracting, but there's a lot of it that challenges your quality and what you do. And the default response would be, you need to make sure that you get the right suppliers and what have you. In my space as a clothing brand, for example, most of the people that you find who own factories will tell you that we need to manufacture at least 1,500 items. So if you are operating from one boutique store, for example, to go and order 1,500 t-shirts is not going to be feasible. And at the same time, whatever you end up having as a product is a component of many things. And sometimes outsourcing or contracting proves to be expensive. But you also want to be in charge of your supply chain. So there's a lot of it that you would consider and eventually end up at that particular point where you want to own your own supply chain.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna keep challenging you on this. What is your basic definition of an entrepreneur?
My basic answer to that would be someone who creates a business that is sustainable out of nothing.
So somebody who creates something out of nothing. So they primarily, yeah, I agree, but there's people who do that too who I don't think are entrepreneurs. Maybe let me answer the question how I think. I think entrepreneurs are probably problem solvers. Like that's it. That's all you're doing all day long, right? You're solving problems. I'm going to discuss something very personal to our business, right? Even though we've gotten this growth, we can never get money from a bank, right? For our operations or various other things. Like they gave us a little bit in the past. Then they went, no, we want to decrease it because you're a competitor. And we're sitting there, we're bringing in and out. When you count both the in and out, 60 million into your bank, and you want to decrease our facilities, right? And then we had to fix that problem. What I'm trying to get at is, when you're describing what you do, right? And I think of how many contracts we funded of people who supply t-shirts into corporate, into government, into all of those things, how much opportunity is sitting there, but how you're framing it is, I don't want to go into there. And you want to do them, and I'm going to say this loosely, the much harder thing of developing a brand that everyone accepts in the country. I think I'm saying it loosely. And then also on top of that, you want to own the entire value chain. I'm not chastising you. It's just something common I often see, and it hurts me because I'm also an entrepreneur who gets stuck in my own problems, right? That one of the things is, I can't think of a single company that's completely vertically integrated. Not one of the really big ones. Sure, the closest thing would be Vest, but not really, because no,
they're not really vertically integrated. They're just diversified. Like they've still got suppliers who are giving them things, right? And I could be wrong. I don't know the company well enough. And this is the mistake we make where you can control the quality you can do that with contracts. You can control the quality without controlling the supplier. I hope I'm being clear here that maybe I don't want to disturb your chain of thinking because we're stubborn, we're entrepreneurs, you're still going to do it anyway, right? Right? But I'm just saying, I'm challenging the narrative that you have that you don't have the capacity to deliver 1,500 t-shirts. So are all the entrepreneurs that came to the People's Fund to get funded so that they can deliver those 1,500 t-shirts. They just have ikrach, I have no other word for it, right? They're going, tenacity, yes, right? To go, I'm gonna go apply for that contract, and then I'm gonna figure out how I get it done afterwards.
So,
Let's.
Okay, maybe respond. I'll
Yeah.
just wait after your response.
Sure.
okay. So I think in response to that, I'll just sum it up and say there is nothing that we haven't considered, right? But obviously that's a question or that's a discussion for another day. But what I'm saying is, in line with the growth strategy, some people want to grow organically, some people want to grow fast, some people are happy with the South African brand, some people want to put on the world map, some entrepreneurs want to control their supply chain, some people want a part of it, but that's a discussion for another day. My question is, if I want to acquire an ongoing factory which already has contracts with existing supplier or with existing retailers like your Contempo and whoever, and I want to acquire that business, is it something that you guys can look at?
Okay, Luyanda uzosithathela ama-clients. Yeah, no, Luyanda, but it was free mentorship. I think you will consider what he has said, as you're saying, the discussion for another day. But to respond to your question, the answer is yes, we can fund an acquisition. If you're saying that I want to integrate backward, as you explained it when you started, you want to own the value chain, as it were, we have funded guys to own businesses, so we do acquisitions. So that's a short answer.
All right, fantastic. You have one more question. One more question, because this is such an important conversation to have. Do we have any more? Okay, you don't have any more questions. So, gentlemen, I will just allow you as well, just to have closing statements, Nyana.
Sure.
Inspire us, motivate us to come knock at your doors, whatever it is, but just, just advice to the entrepreneurs in closing, essentially. Let's start with you, Tom.
Yeah, I think Rera can do this better than me. But I think maybe let me also say something on contracts, because we do fund contracts as well at SEFA, but there are certain contracts we don't touch. If you don't have a session of payment, for instance, we won't touch that kind of a contract. If you're not adding value, it's a buy and sell transaction, we don't do that. For a simple reason that that's not entrepreneurship. We define it like that. If you've got a purchase order, there must be some value add, some beneficiation that you do, then we can consider doing those type of applications. Funding and motivation in one statement, you can't have that. So for me, I'm hoping that after this, you will better understand how SEFA operates. And if you want to access SEFA funding, what is it that you must do? And again, let me emphasize the point that says online, you can go online, website, it will do the pre-screening, it will guide you properly how to go about doing things. One of the things that we have done, which I didn't talk about, we have developed what we call a common funding template. Because remember, over and above contracts, for us to fund you, we'll then say, give us a proposal. Lagusis was asking about the Bank of State. Okay, give us a proposal. The question is, what framework must that proposal take? So we have developed what we call the funding template. We did that with the IDC, with NEF, NYDA, and CEDA, to move away from this thing that says, if you go out there and Google, there are so many templates of business plans, some of them even confusing. So we have them. We have that template. You can access that. Our website, you just click in there. It's called Common Funding Template. You will respond to certain questions. Because remember now, as lenders, there are certain ways in which we interpret information. You know, we count down a GP percentage, whatnot. Entrepreneurs, they don't know that. But they know that I buy this thing for 10 rands and I sell for 15 rands. It's up to you as a lender to say, what is your GP percentage on that? So the template is built around that. Ask simple questions. And then in the background, it will develop a funding template, which is a Word document. You can download that and then penalty it if you think it needs to be reviewed, and then you can submit it to SEFA or IDC or NEF for funding. So those are the things that I said. It's not motivational stuff, but it's to them to say, for you to access SEFA, what must you do? I did give my email address. Thank you very much.
I want the room to imagine 5 years from now, what conversation are we having around Black business, and has that title fallen away? Because success, I think success in this is when that title can fall away of Black business, like just having business, right? Like period, right? And who's providing the solutions for those businesses? Are we part of this room, right? And are we finding the ways to make things happen? So I'm basically saying, is everyone joining the People's Stokvel when they get out of this room, so that we can all fund small businesses and own a bank collectively? And over and above that, I just want to say something, and it's not a direct challenge, on the pickup and delivery. You know, my sense is this, and it goes back to the comment that was being said earlier. There's 3,000 things to learn when you're growing a business, right? And each one needs to be learned at different stages. Do you know, contracting and delivering a contract, there's about maybe 5 things you need to learn. You need to learn how to get a customer, right? Like, you need to learn how to get a customer. You need to learn how to do a delivery note. You need to learn how to do an invoice. You need to learn how to follow up payment. So these are parts of the subtle things about business that nobody tells you, because most of the non-payments that people complain about from government actually come from the entrepreneur not doing their admin. It's not government, right? Government spends over 900 billion, less than 7 billion of that is not paid within 30 days. That's less than 1%. And most of that is down to entrepreneur admin, right? So I almost want to say, yes, we want people who have beneficiation as an end result, right? But to get in the game and learn, do the pickup and delivery, we'll support that. And why we'll support that is because you're learning in the process, right? How to run a business outside of the skill that you have, right? Which is either manufacturing or textile. So yeah, Vugani guys, bangene. Vugani ngene bangene son cup. Thanks guys.
I know we're out of time, but can I just say something just on what Urianda said? The issue of pickup and delivery. And it's right to then say there are certain things that you need to learn, you know, whether it's to do an invoice, whatnot and whatnot. The challenge is one, and I'm sure we'll get there as we partner. We're going to partner with you guys. Okay. Because the issue then is, if you are saying you are coming to apply for a funding for contract, and it's a buy and sell, and you need to learn those things, then we must be with you in the whole journey. You know, we need to understand that you're starting here. You are not supplying Mama Potlelamanzi because there's an event here. You know, it's not there. We give you and then you pay us and we don't know what happened to you. You know, we need to then say, when we partner, this person is providing whatever they're providing. After 3-4 years, they must be somewhere in the value chain. So
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm taking time again. So we actually have 3 examples of companies like that within the People's Fund, right? That we started with purchase order funding. What they were doing is, do you know one of the hardest departments to get into? I don't know if you're familiar with this, is ESCOM, because of the technical nature of the company. And one of the crazy things about ESCOM is this, it's funny, this country, if I told the full story. The speccing of ESCOM parts is done in Germany. It's not done here. And there's certain parts that have an exclusive distributor, right? There's no other distributor of those parts. So a lot of the entrepreneurs, what they do, they get in, they supply water, right? And build a relationship with procurement, right? Supplying water. One of them, we started with them 2 years ago. Now they're going into the main economy of Eskom. They've got graders. We just bought for them graders and various other things, where they've got an operator who's operating the grader and various other things for Eskom to get in the contract. So I'm in 100% agreement with you that the trick is to convert them, but we can't convert them if we don't get them started, you know? So that's where I think the disconnect of the market is, you know, with general entrepreneurs.
Oh, fantastic.
Should have read this in the morning.
I know, but you actually have brought in so much energy, you know, back into the room. I mean, it's afternoon. This is the last panel session. I think this was a very good, excellent choice. You know, the combination between Udon and Luyanda. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this incredible event that is brought to you. And just also, the Business Development Agency is a private company, not a government agency that was founded by myself about 7 years ago. So no, we are not government. We do not have grants. I know that you know, someone outside was you know, asking me that does the BDA have any grants? I know that your offices are somewhere in town. They are not, and we do not have grants. However, I'd just also like to extend gratitude to Brand South Africa, of which I'm also one of the PYP ambassadors, as well as Vega School. Mandisa will be announcing the last 5 SMEs that have been, you know, that will be sponsored or have already been sponsored because it's already been paid for. And you guys will be going through this digital brand strategy course with Vega, which is worth 11,000 Rand, and it is sponsored between the Business Development Agency, Brand SA, as well as Vega School. So thank you very much. I did mention at the beginning of this session that we have drinks. So do not rush out. Go grab a drink at the deck outside, so not in here. Have a chat with Luyanda, have a chat with Don Mashele, and maybe just also to repeat his email address, it's donm@sefa.org.za. My memory is good. Listen, my memory is very good. So thank you very much, guys, for gracing us with your presence.
You can visit the website.
Thepeople.co.za.
That's the slowest way to get funded at the People's Fund.
This is a CEO.
That's the slowest way. And can I say this frankly,
Yeah.
right? We make this mistake of wanting to talk. Boss, that's the worst person you can talk to when you're trying to get shit done. If the company is efficient. If it's efficient, right? I'll answer, I've got I think 200 emails unanswered.
So the email address or the website address is www.thepeople.co.za.
I can put out my email, but I can't promise.
All right, thank you very much, guys, and have a beautiful, beautiful evening.